listeners! Welcome to the What is Nerd podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Dietz, and with me is Nick Grant.
Hey, happy to be here. Let's talk some Neon Genesis.
Let's get into it. I can't contain myself. And I'm also here with JP Cochran, who I know is super excited.
Yeah, that's right. It's been a few interesting last episodes. Pretty psychedelic.
You could say that, yes. Now, okay, so yes, for those listening to the show for the first time, this is actually a bad episode to start with. Go back, listen to our part 1 discussion of Neon Genesis Evangelion, because this is discussion 3 out of 3. We're going to be talking about the episodes 19 through 26 of the anime series Neon Genesis Evangelion, along with the movie finale of the show, The End of Evangelion. So if you haven't watched those before, sign into Netflix. I know you have Netflix, or at least your parents do.
Somebody that has it.
So get in there, watch that show, get into this discussion, because this show is insane, especially this part.
Yeah, and we're going to have a little bit of some spoilers, so if you want to...
We're going to have spoilers galore, so stop listening now if you haven't seen it. That being said, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the show. Give us a like on iTunes and follow us on Twitter at WhatIsNerd1. Also, rate and review the show on your podcasting app. That helps us out a lot, helps us gather more listeners, and helps us grow the What is Nerd family. I like to think of us as a family here.
Yeah, just like it's a garden, we're trying to water, I don't know.
And finally, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, send us an email at winerdcast@gmail.com. But that does it for introductions. Let's get into it. Episode 19 of Neon Genesis Evangelion. Who wants to walk? Actually, I got this. So,
okay. That sounds
take
good.
It away, man.
Yeah, I don't want it anyways.
I was going to say, Nick, go ahead. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, because I want to get through it really quickly, because I want to hear what you guys think of the ending, okay? So we're going to speed through the recap of the plot for the final few episodes. So episode 19, this picks up right after Shinji was forced to harm his friend Toji in the fight against his Toji's Evangelion, who had been possessed by an angel. And so Shinji attempts to leave, and the next angel invades.
Yeah, and Rei and Asuka fight it and get demolished.
Right, so Shinji has to come back. He doesn't have a choice. He's got to do something about it, right? Yeah, and he ends up kind of failing, but his Eva goes berserk and starts eating the angel after he kills it. Comes alive. It has teeth. That part was freaky. Mm-hmm. The shot with the Evangelion with teeth. And then we, going into episode 20, at this point, Shinji's Evangelion unit has basically imprisoned him, right? It's enclosed and it's kept him inside.
Well, yeah,
right?
but they achieved a 400% synchronization ratio, which means basically Shinji's physical self is one with the Eva, and
he's melted basically.
So in this episode, this is the beginning of the total shift in the show. I don't say I had a hard time, but as I'm watching this, I'm sure you guys felt the same. I'm watching the show, and at about this point, I'm like, how is this a kid's show?
It's not.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking earlier. I was like, I hope not too many kids watch the show.
Because, it's so insane. So it's basically a psychedelic trip where Shinji he's basically talking to kind of the ghost of his mom, and he's just thinking about life and everything, and you see these weird, it's just, the whole thing's weird and psychedelic. Like, he sees a naked Masato, Asuka, and Rei, and they keep saying stuff like, "Be one with us, Shinji. Join us."
Like, wait, it'll feel good or something like that?
They said, "Be one with me in body and soul," and they say that like over and over. And
and so it's like
them like leaning into the camera.
Yeah, this show is so like just.
It was so bizarre. There wasn't any nudity, but it was still very
just
weird.
Just because they don't draw just because they don't draw nipples or genitalia on a character, like if they're naked, they're naked.
They were naked. And so then it's basically the whole time, Ritsuko, she's the main scientist. She's trying to figure out what's the deal. Asuka's kind of messed up. She's like, why isn't Shinji back? And anyways, after Shinji's journey, basically the Eva like just poops Shinji out of his chest. And like, Shinji's
he's
back.
like reborn.
Yeah, he's reborn, exactly.
All right, that too. That's probably a better image.
Because he experiences, like, he flashbacks to being in the womb of his mother, and he sees the vaginal like birth canal that from his perspective, and it opens up into like a white light, and then basically the Eva grows a vagina.
It's a weird show, kids.
And so, like, wait, does then Shinji become an Eva himself? Or because he's like one with it, and then he's like born out of it? Is he like the...
I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about this, though, is that it introduces the idea of like... because what we find out later, which if you're listening to this, we're assuming that you finished the series... Shinji's AT field, the barrier that keeps like the atoms of his body intact, broke down while inside the Eva, and that's basically what the Human Instrumentality Project is, as we come to learn in the End of Evangelion movie, right?
Right.
And so that's kind of what he experienced. Now I don't get what's significant about like why he was reborn and all that stuff, and what that means for him, as far as if he's like part of the Eva now or something like that, because there's a lot of unanswered questions in this show.
Right. And the episode ends with Masato and Kaji. They're in bed, and
they're going to the bone zone. So
you hear them, and I was watching this, and like I had mood. I was like, I really don't want anybody walking in while this is playing. And then that was interesting. And then
he gives her something.
Yeah, he gives her a little chip, and it has details, and it's from all this stuff he was spying on Nerve.
Yeah, he slips her the information because I think he knows that he's going to be killed off pretty soon, which is kind of what happens in. Does that happen in the next episode? Episode 21. Yes. So episode 21, we have. What happens here? The deputy commander. Well, so the deputy commander is abducted, and Kaji is suspected. And then you see the deputy commander, he's talking to what he thinks is SEAL, like the board of, I guess, the board of trustees or whatever that run Nerve, right? Mm-hmm. But it turns out it's actually Kaji tricking him into giving him information, right? Is that right?
I just was confused by that point, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there was a whole lot that was like, I really didn't understand what was going on. Like, I got the main gist, but anyways.
It takes us through the history of Nerve.
Is this the first time we hear about SEAL?
No, actually, I was pronouncing it wrong. It's Zile, is how they pronounce it in the show.
Zile.
But they have kind of hinted at it and mentioned it. They haven't fully explained what it is, but it's pretty much the governing body that's in charge of Nerve. And Gendo, Shinji's dad, is sort of clashing with them a bit. They think that Gendo's reckless, and they don't really trust him. And they're starting to think that he needs to be replaced. Yeah,
and one thing, I don't know if I said this in a previous episode, I might have, but when I was watching this show, I thought, how much money does Nerve have? Because they have to constantly repair these Evas. They constantly have to provide ammunition for the Evas and their weapons, and those are huge rounds, so that's not cheap. And then you have like this giant city base, and so I was like, how much money does it cost to run this thing? And so anyways, I'm sure they're tired of just funneling in money and not really getting the results they want. So I can see why they would be upset. So the rest of the episodes, a lot of it is flashbacks, and you see Gendo as a kid, and well, not a kid, like a college student.
Yeah, young man.
Yeah, and you see Shinji's mom, what's her name, Yui?
Yes.
And it shows how they meet and how they fall in love, and how Yui was a scientist, basically, and really smart. You see Ritsuko's mom, how she worked with him as well. And it was kind of cool because you see all this little backstory, and Yui, she died in an accident with the Eva, and she basically got absorbed into the Eva. Is that right?
Maybe.
Or something.
I'm not sure.
Something like that. See, okay, listeners, this show is crazy. It's hard to obviously we're having trouble deciphering the stuff.
Yeah, well, and I would even argue that the plot at this point isn't super important. At least this type of stuff, like the explanation of what's going on, the mysteries and all that stuff. I think that the creator of the show wasn't exactly even interested in this stuff anymore, and so it kind of just rushes through, and a lot of gaps are left. But what I thought was craziest about this is you see Rei as a child, and so Gendo is pretending that Rei is like his that he's watching his friend's kid or something like that.
Yeah, and this is after Yui's dead. Like she's passed away, and so then Rei comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, and so and Rei calls Ritsuko's mom an old hag, and then Ritsuko's mom chokes her to death.
Well, you gotta understand. So prior to that, after Yui's dead, Ritsuko, she's working at Nerves now, and she sees her mom kissing Gendo, and you're like, well, that's weird when they start this little love affair. And then so obviously Ritsuko's mom has feelings for Shinji's dad. And then Rei says, "You're an old hag." She's like, "That's not very nice of you to say." She says, "Well, that's what Mr. What's his last name?
Ikari.
Yeah, Mr. Ikari calls you. He says that all the time. That old hag." And then basically Ritsuko's mom just loses her mind and chokes
a child to death.
Rei.
Yeah. No,
But it's a character that we already know is alive too. So that's confusing, right?
Right. And then after that, Ritsuko's mom wakes up, snaps out of it, and says, "Oh my gosh," as she's holding this lifeless body. And then the next scene is police investigators cleaning up a crime scene where obviously somebody jumped off a ledge, and it's Ritsuko's mom.
Right, yeah, it's implied that she killed herself.
Yeah, and then flash forward, Kaji rescued the deputy commander.
Well, so I didn't see it as that. I saw it that he didn't rescue him. I saw it that he had tricked him into telling him all this stuff, all this information, that the deputy commander wasn't actually talking to Zile at this time, that he was actually talking to Kaji, who was making him think that he was being interrogated by Zile. That's how I took it, but I could be wrong.
Well, it's been a while since I've watched these episodes, so you're probably right.
Yeah, because what happens is I think that he frees the deputy commander, and the deputy commander goes and I think tells them that he was kidnapped by, tells Nerve that he was kidnapped by Kaji, and then they send in some G-men to go and kill Kaji, basically, right? They shoot him.
Yeah, you don't see who kills Kaji, but he's dead.
Yeah, and so, okay, I got a question. Okay, first big question that doesn't have to do with this direct plot. Is Rei Shinji's mom?
A clone of her, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I was kind of confused about too.
So Rei is Shinji's mom, and so with her calling Ritsuko's mom an old hag, obviously she's pissed off.
Well, see, I don't know if that's what it is. I think maybe I don't know. It's crazy, but so I don't think she's jealous because in the flashbacks you see Shinji's mom as a very kind of a bubbly personality.
Yeah,
she's very happy, cheerful.
And stuff.
Yeah, and she has a personality. Rei does not. She's just a shell of a human who hardly has a soul, and just knows she wants to do whatever Gendo wants her to do, and so I don't think.
So
she's
it's almost
jealous.
like she's incomplete or something like that.
Yeah,
okay.
and I don't think she's jealous. I think I think Gendo just has said in passing that she's an old hag, and you know how kids are. They take something and run with it. So I think that's part of it.
Let's keep going. So episode 22. This one is the one that focuses on Asuka.
Yes.
And Asuka is having, and we're going to breeze through a lot of plot stuff in this one, but basically Asuka is having security issues, right? Because she's being overshadowed by Shinji, and all that Asuka has to keep her going is her ego, right?
Yeah,
so
and
now that her ego's been busted, she's kind of having like a breakdown, pretty much.
And also, I thought this was really weird in the episode. So it starts off, and it's before she meets Shinji. It's like right before they head out to take the Eva to Tokyo 3, and I thought this was really weird, kind of on that pedophile stuff we talked about.
You talking about her hanging out with Kaji?
Well, yeah, and she's just begging Kaji to kiss her and, quote, do other stuff. And I thought, this is so weird, and why would they even have this in the show? Like, obviously, she has a crush on him. I mean, that's fine, whatever. But when she says, oh, kiss me, please, and let's do other stuff, I was like, okay, this has gone too far.
Well, obviously because her whole thing is that she doesn't want to be treated as a kid.
Right.
Because, like, because of her mom killing herself and stuff like that. And her whole thing is that she doesn't need to rely on others, so she thinks that she's more grown than she is. So I kind of get that on a character level. But my problem is Kaji, as the adult in this situation, allowing for a child to feel like that is even a possibility. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like laying down, looking at the sky alone. You obviously know this girl has a crush on you. Like he's kind of leading her on, which I think is messed up, right?
Yeah, because she's 14.
Yeah, and he's just not doing anything. He's just like, okay.
Yeah, he needs to be like, look, you need to shut that shit down, like, because it's obviously not the first time that she's come on to him.
Right.
But that's kind of part of her character, though, is that she doesn't want to be considered as a kid. The stuff with her mom.
Her mom went crazy.
Oh yeah, and the image of her mom. I don't know if that's in this episode or not, but hanging from the ceiling, with the noose. That's really disturbing because it struck me how long her neck is.
That's in a later episode, but in this one, her mom's in a hospital and she's crazy. She thinks Asuka is this doll that she holds, and that's so right. Asuka's been replaced by a doll, and her mom basically just pats the doll. And is like, "Oh, honey, she's just obsessed with this doll," and Asuka feels like trash because her mom won't give her time of day. Her dad's super busy. He's a scientist too. All these people are scientists, and he's a doctor. And anyways.
Well, and she also, to kind of tie in the doll motif, she calls Rei a doll, that she's just kind of like a mindless puppet.
Asuka calls Rei that?
Yeah, Asuka calls Rei a doll. Yeah. And that's interesting because Rei kind of is a doll, being like an artificial human and all that stuff. And so that's kind of a interesting little connection between them.
Yeah.
But basically, the angel that they fight psychologically torments her, right? Asuka.
Yes, and it was. Yeah. Was the angel playing Joyful?
Or is that Ode to Joy?
Ode to Joy.
One of those. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think it's the same song, but yeah. So this angel shoots this light at Asuka, who's like, She needs this, so she's like, I'm gonna take it on, kind of boost her ego, and then the light hits Asuka, and she sees all these images and has all these feelings from when she was around her mom, who killed herself and everything, and their negative feelings, and she has a meltdown, and she can't do anything. And then the angel tries to attack Asuka, but then...
Well, I don't think that the angel was intending
to... I'm thinking ahead, yeah, so...
Yeah, the angel wasn't intending to physically harm Asuka. I think it was just doing psychology. Because, we see how the angels change. They start off as basically big old monsters, and then they turn into more abstract things. And now it's they figured out that, the best way to damage the humans is to influence their minds, pretty much. Because that's what they do. They beat Asuka so that she can't even help anymore. She's defeated, even though her Ava's still around and she's still alive. After this fight, she's useless. But Rei ends up saving her, and that kind of is like an extra salt on the wound, right?
Right. She gets she has the lance of Longinus, or a spear of Longinus, and chunks it at the angel, pierces it, kills the angel, and then the spear's off in the moon, and that's pretty much the episode.
Yeah. Okay, so episode 23, this is where we learn about Rey's origins pretty much, right? Rey fights an angel, and it's like the weird halo thing that turns into a snake, and it kind of pierces Rey, and you got kind of Rey's little mind's eye sequence where you see her kind of surreal flashbacks and all that stuff. Shinji comes to save her, and she sacrifices herself to, and she lets her Eva self-destruct, right?
Yes.
Yeah, in order to save Shinji.
Yeah, and so she's dead, but it turns out she's not, right? She's in the hospital later, and she says, "I'm the third one."
Yeah, was she remade or something like that?
Yeah, because they got a tank full of Reys.
Yeah,
down,
that's right.
Yeah, at the bottom. And I don't completely understand this, but I guess that Ritsuko takes Shinji and Misato down there to show them that Rey is, that there's like a whole bunch of Reys just laying around, and
Yeah, it's weird. They actually seem happier in the the holding.
in the tank, they're literally like laughing.
Yeah, it's so weird. Anyway,
Yeah.
so Ritsuko basically just destroys all the tanks, and they all die. No, they all disintegrate.
All the Reys are dead now, and there's just one left, right?
Right.
at the end of this episode. And this is where stuff is going by really quickly, and there's a lot of, I feel like more questions are brought up than are answered. And then we get to episode 24. Okay, this is the part where you see that Asuka's mom hung herself, and Asuka discovered her body.
And so Asuka, she's in a full-blown depression, doesn't want to do anything, and so Nerve says we need a new pilot, and so they get this kid named Karu.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's weird.
And he was I could like, did he have a thing for Shinji?
Oh yeah, well they had a thing for each other, like totally, because it turns out that Kaworu is an angel. He's the last angel, the 18th.
Yeah, well, but before that though, he talks to Shinji, and they touch hands, and there's like this chemistry between them, and Shinji opens up to him because he thinks he's a student. It's his age, and he's the first male Eva pilot that he can actually talk to as a pilot, because Toji was there, and that's another thing. Once Toji was in the hospital, his storyline was over. Like, yeah, we're done with him.
That's right. He never comes back.
Yeah, just want to point that out.
I just realized that.
Wait, like this guy?
No, Toji, Shinji's friend, who was the other Eva pilot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
they might as well just killed him.
Yeah. But so he opens up to Karu or whatever, and anyways, turns out he's the last angel, and he's trying to he takes over Asuka's old Unit 2, and they're basically destroying Nerve from the inside out, and he's going down because they're trying to find Adam, the first angel, and then once Shinji, he says no, he gets in his unit, he's basically fighting Unit 2 while they're going down this long deep tunnel, destroying this Nerve, and then once they get to the base, Shinji defeats the Eva unit, and Kaworu says, "Oh, this isn't Adam. No, this isn't. Yeah, this is Lilith."
Yeah, and I'm like, who?
Yeah, who's Lilith? Who? Yeah, it's just weird. And then
they talked about Lilith?
No, this is the first time they mentioned it. Also, Kaworu was calling humans. He referred to them as Lilin. Okay, so whenever he's making observations about the way that humans are, he refers to them as Lilin. And so in the mythology of the show, it's confusing. Okay, so this dead angel is not the first angel. This is a different angel called Lilith. My understanding is that there was actually 2 second impacts at the same time. One of them happened where Tokyo, or maybe not 2 second impacts, but anyways, there's 2 original angels on Earth. There's Adam, which was the one in the second impact that happened in Antarctica, and there's another one. This one, Lilith, is the second original angel who was here beneath Tokyo 3 the whole time. And so that's why they built Tokyo 3 here, and they built Nerve here, because they wanted to use this angel in order to, start the human instrumentality project, right?
Which we still at this point don't really know what that is.
Right, and so the whole time though, the angels have been trying to get to this spot, but apparently they didn't realize that this angel wasn't Adam. So we don't know what Adam looks like. He didn't appear in the show. We just know this one.
So is Lilith the second angel?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Okay. And now I talked about Cabal, the Jewish mysticism, the Jewish mythology, and actually, have y'all heard about that? That Lilith was Adam's first wife, like in the Book of Genesis, like in the Bible.
Okay, so the only reason I know that is because I've watched Sabrina the Teenage Witch on Netflix. Okay, and so the second season. There's Lilith plays a major role in it.
Okay.
With the devil.
Yes, because I could be. I mean, I don't actually know anything about this stuff. I just read some stuff on the internet, but I believe that in some religious practices, Lilith is considered a demon.
Yeah, she's like the what's the word? Heiress of hell, or the
according to Sabrina.
yeah. She's like the mother of hell.
Lilith was Adam's first wife, and then something happened. I'm not sure what, but and then Eve was created, and this is according to Cabal, that Jewish mythology stuff. So it is a reference to that, but honestly, I have no idea what is actually happening at this point in the show, though.
Yeah,
so, okay, my thing is that we're talking about the committee. What is
Zile.
it called? Well, we have Zile and the
Human Instrumentality Project.
That project, and they're throwing all these committees and projects and names around. I don't know what the heck they are. And then in the middle of this stuff, there's a bunch of psychedelic stuff that happens, and I don't know. I guess maybe I just need concrete explanations for some of this stuff, and there is none of that really.
Yeah.
No,
well,
definitely.
Maybe I'm.
And bottom line, what happens is Shinji kills Kaworu, right? He's got him in his hand, and it has like the camera just stays on, Ava 1 holding Kaworu for like 10 minutes.
Oh yeah,
it's completely
forever.
still. And then I guess
it goes to black, doesn't it? And then you hear a crunch, and you're like, oh.
He must have just popped Kawaru's head off with his thumb, like how you flick a penny or something like that.
Yeah.
And because you see Kawaru's head land in the liquid.
But I mean, okay, but is he bad? Is he a bad thing?
Okay, that's the thing, because the angels figured out, right, that in order to beat the humans, right, they studied their brains, and they figured out the thing about human beings is that all human beings are incomplete and flawed and lonely, right? So in order to beat them, they created basically the perfect person, right? And so Kaworu is this genuine, sincere, nice person, and that finally completes Shinji, fills the gap in his soul, right? And so this is why Shinji falls in love with him, because oh, here's the guy who is complete, and he's got it all together, and he's willing to listen to my problems, and he really seems to care and all that stuff. And Kaworu's job, however, is to get to Lilith and do whatever the angels were supposed to do. I guess start the third impact, right? So we don't know what's going to happen whenever the third impact happens. So it's hard to say whether or not Kaworu was actually evil, right? Because we don't even know what's going to happen at this point whenever the third impact happens. All we know is that Shinji, this is another emotionally scarring thing that happened, that Shinji is forced to do, right? Is to kill Kaworu. Is that about right, Nick? Or is there...
that sums it up. I mean, he's screwed up. Shinji, for the entire show, Shinji has a roller coaster of events. Because at first he's shy. He's like, I can't pilot the Ava. Then he does it, and he gets his butt whooped, and then he kind of gets some confidence. He starts having crushes on girls, which I guess he hasn't had before. And then he gets confident, gets taken down a peg or two. Then he makes a friend. Then his friend's an angel. He almost kills his other friend. So he's been through a lot. And so anyways, poor Shinji. I mean, he's not the most intriguing character, but you definitely feel for the guy. I mean, he can't get a break.
This is bringing us to the final two episodes, 25 and 26. and we are, I guess, at this point, the plot of the show is over, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, what I really, really, really like about this show, though, is that idea that basically the thesis statement of the show, I think, is that human beings are incomplete, and they the gaps in yourself need to be filled in by love from other people, basically, right?
Right, because this whole episode is basically it's Shinji who feels guilty for killing his only friend that he bonded with.
Yeah.
And he's flipping out. Asuka, she's still depressed, and basically it's just this whole trip where you see Shinji who's like, I don't want to be alone, and then you see Asuka who says that she wants people to want her, and Masato, she breaks down. She's in a dark room, and she says she hates herself. She's tired. She feels like dirt, and then she's forced to tell her she's a slut. And
yeah. Okay, that's what drives me crazy is that they treat Masato like a damn whore, like just sleeping with everyone around town. Like she sleeps with one guy in the show.
And she already had a past. She had a romantic relationship with him in the past. So it's not like it's some new guy that swept off her feet. So she had a history with him.
Yeah, I really don't like that. I think that they kind of just didn't know what to do to give her character an arc. So they're just like, Masato's such a whore, sleeping with people. I was like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, this is the episode that you see that Asuka walked in on her mom's dead body, and then she wanted to be strong and independent. And basically, it just shows that everybody's scared and struggles with something. That's basically the whole gist of this episode. And you actually later find out that it's part of the human instrumentality project.
Yeah, and so my take on this is that, so they take the metaphorical idea of filling in your gaps and they make that literal, right?
Oh yeah.
Because I think it's Kaworu that says that angels and Avas have AT fields, right? Which is this metaphysical barrier that protects it, right? And so that's like that force field or whatever that they have. Humans also have AT fields, but instead of being on the outside of our bodies, they're on the inside of our bodies, right? And so what the Human Instrumentality Project is it literally destroys all of the AT fields, like on Earth. So basically, humans have morphed into one thing, right? They've become one big old being.
Yeah, well, that's more in the movie, but we'll get into that, I think.
Well, they describe what it is in this one. They don't show what it looks like, and they said that it's kind of taken people on Earth and it's turned them into one being. And we don't know what that means or what that looks like. I feel like anyone watching the show, like you guys, for the first time, you're like, what?
Yeah, well, it's like one big freaking depressed. Yeah, it's one being, but that being is not doing well emotionally.
Yeah, well, and so it's almost like, because my take is that in these two episodes, the people are calibrating, right? So like, I'm sure that in Shinji's consciousness, all the other characters are helping him through his stuff, but also in Asuka's subconsciousness, or I don't even know if subconsciousness it exists anymore in this world, but in Asuka's perspective, all the other characters are helping her through her feelings and stuff.
Okay, then where are the physical bodies of these people?
Yeah, I didn't know, because it looked like Shinji was just sitting in like some studio. There's some spotlights on him, and then like it gets weird, folks. I mean, it's been weird
because it's all a dream at this point, right?
Basically, kind of. That's what I didn't really understand. And so episode 25 just flows right into 26, and it starts off, and obviously the key theme is everybody feels alone. But I think Shinji starts talking, and he kind of realizes that everybody feels alone at some point. Everybody's self-conscious about something. You're not alone in that regard, and it's okay to feel that way because everybody else feels that way. It's not really something you want to talk about, but if you rely on your friends, your family, people that you care about, people that care about you, it's okay, and you'll get through it. And at this point, Shinji's, having his weird psychedelic trip, and somebody talks to him, or he just kind of wakes up, and he wakes up in bed. Asuka's there, and as she was, come on, you idiot, we got to go to school. And so,
oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
and so I was like, wait, so
Yeah.
is this whole thing was a dream?
It's a dream.
Yeah.
There's that period of like where everything's okay.
Yeah, because like Asuka's like his best friend.
yeah,
and
and
then
normalcy has returned.
Yeah,
Right,
But then like Ray's like the new girl at school. That,
Yeah, and Yui's not dead. Jindo just is a dad who just reads the paper a lot. So Asuka,
And
Shinji,
Misato's their teacher,
Right.
their sexy teacher.
yeah, and Shinji's like a normal kid because he's talking to Toji and their other friend and kind of cutting up. Like, oh, this is good, And then it snaps out of it, and Shinji says, "Wait, that's another universe." And it's like, yeah, in another world, maybe you were not so depressed. And
Yeah.
basically, this is what I took from this scene. He said, well, if I'm happy in another world, I can be happy in this one. And basically, I felt like the whole thing was saying, yeah, there are tough things out there, but you can choose to be happy. You
Yeah.
can choose.
And is that when everybody claps?
Yes.
Well, he said something like he doesn't hate himself now, and he wants to. It basically what it's
he
saying.
wants to be a part of this world.
Yeah, he
I
wants to
think
be a
is
part
the
of
line.
it and be
Yeah.
with people, and it was I choose to be happy. I'm tired of being down on myself, and basically he's changed his outlook on life. And then like the walls around him shatter like glass, and then all the main characters are there around him, and like, you did it, Shinji. Yeah, and they start saying
They say,
congratulations.
congratulations, congratulations.
Yeah, kind of like it was one big test.
Or I saw it as like a therapy session, kind of. It's like or like a group therapy type thing, but and he came out on the other side, and like, okay, I'll be completely honest. Okay, I watched this part and I cried at this part. I like straight up started like tears coming out of my eyes crying at this part because for me, okay. Like, I don't know. I think they sold it really well because the whole show is all about building Shinji up to be this insecure guy who like just doesn't like himself and stuff. And you finally get to see him break through and be happy, And that hit me like big time. Was this kind of emotionally satisfying for you guys?
Yeah, it was because the whole, basically the whole show, he's really fragile and emotionally insecure about a lot of things. I mean, he does have that time where he's confident when he's like.
But even then, it's like because whenever he gets confident, it's more of like an arrogance, and so it's like
that's true.
it's still like a wall that he puts up between himself and everyone else, and so like this part is like break down the walls, right? The walls that you put up, in your heart and like in your relationships with others. Just love yourself, be yourself, and people will accept you. And I don't know. I think that it sold that message so well.
Yeah, I thought they sold it well too because I was like, there's times in everybody's life where they're down about something, and I was like, this is so true, and I thought it had a really strong and good message for everybody watching the show, and
Yeah.
I mean, it was cool to see Shinji come out on the other side, but still, it's like, I didn't get emotional, but it really it did hit me. I was like, you know what? I mean, that's a really good life lesson, and it was only 26 episodes in, but I thought it really had a really good message. And again, I thought, man, this is pretty heavy for a kids show, but I mean, it was a great message.
Yeah.
I do not think it was a great finale.
Okay, so here's my feelings on that. Because looking at it from the creator's perspective, right? I think that, because I told you guys that one of the reasons why the finale was like this is because they ran out of money.
Right.
They literally ran out of money, so they couldn't really even animate much. They had to recycle a lot of used animation, and so they had to go this abstract route. But at the same time, I think that the creator of the show, Hideaki Anno is the guy's name, and I think that to him, maybe the show had started as a show about kids fighting monsters and robots, but by the end of it, I think that he didn't care about that stuff. I think that to him, what the show was about was the emotional journey of Shinji, right? And so I feel like that the show does wrap that up really well. However, if for the people watching the show that wanted answers and that wanted to see how stuff ended, this is a complete failure. You know? Like,
yeah, and with me, I mean, because I didn't really understand what in the world was going on anyway. I mean, I did a little bit, but I was still really confused.
Yeah, as far as,
I was more interested in the characters themselves, who are mainly Shinji.
Yeah.
And
it kind of makes it so that it's
up.
it kind of makes it so that it's okay if you have no idea what the hell's happening.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I agree. Like we talked about this in the previous episode too. That we felt like the strength of the show was the characters themselves, and I definitely agree. But still, while I feel like this is the strength of the show, you still have all this other stuff with the angels that they just kind of said, yeah, I mean, it was a thing, it happened. And,
right. But it kind of sucks that it kind of doesn't matter, because you've been asking all these questions and you've been thinking about it so much, and now it's all of a sudden like, oh well, who cares about that stuff?
Yeah. And actually, in a way, in the episodes 25 and 26, I did miss that fighting and all the other characters and just their
reality.
Reality. I guess that the normal routine of their what they were doing and everything.
Yeah. In my opinion, the ideal way for the show to end was, instead of ending in these 2 episodes, they really should have had 6 to 8 more episodes that actually explained the endings and explained what was going on. And I think you still could have had an emotional payoff with Shinji's arc. That's in the ideal world, right? But obviously that didn't happen. The show ended abruptly like this, and a lot of fans were mad, like I told y'all last time. And fans wrote hate mail to the showrunner, and they said, hey, you suck. I hope you die.
Man, see that I never understood giving death threats to somebody. I understand. I mean,
they created the thing that you like.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, this is art. This is an art form, and that was what the artist or the writer had in mind to an extent. Obviously, there might have been some budget stuff, so they had to kind of cut it short. But that's what he did. That's the story he told, and you might not be happy with it. But you know what? There's this thing out there, and I believe it's called fan fiction.
Right. Yeah.
Where
make your own ending, right?
Yeah. I mean, how many Star Wars other storylines are there? Because there's so much in Star Trek. I mean, there's all these things. But I mean, I get it. You feel
betrayed. You feel
like there wasn't a big payoff. But still, sorry to get on the soapbox. I don't think you should start attack people just because this was what they wanted to make. If you have issues with it, definitely, I think it'd be cool to do your own fan fiction and make kind of your own ending however you want. Who knows? They might make it into another TV show. But I just think, again, sorry, going on this little tangent, I just think it's crazy to give death threats over the way a show ended. I just think that's juvenile.
That's dumb nerds for you. Yeah, that's what sucks about some nerd stuff.
That's not just a nerds thing, because in the sports world, if there's a player messes up tremendously and costs your team the game, they receive death threats and death tweets, and I think that's idiotic. Because it's not. You think they wanted to fail? No, but sometimes it happens. It might not be great, and it might make you upset. But still, I mean, they're people too.
Well, and I immediately think of Game of Thrones, right? Because a lot of people were so mad with how the last season went, and I thought the last season was bad, but all the people that were saying that they regret ever watching the show in the first place, that's dumb, because, I mean, you loved the first several seasons. So it doesn't matter if the ending didn't stick. You spent hours and hours and hours watching something that you really loved and really enjoyed. So you can't exactly be mad at the showrunners for not sticking the landing. And so that's why this movie right here, End of Evangelion, I would call it Evangelion fuck all y'all. That's what they should have called it, because people demanded a redo of the ending. And so Hideaki Anno, he was like, okay, you freaking nerds, you want an ending? Here you go. And he basically, this is like a horror movie, pretty much, right? Which
there's a bunch of killing.
Everyone dies terribly. It hates the audience. It makes you feel bad for watching it. The craziest things I've ever seen in a movie happen.
Yeah, it makes me sad. What's her name?
Misato?
Yeah, I mean, she's killed, and
well, yeah, everyone dies, and well, maybe not everyone dies, but it's like the darkest, most extreme thing, and like I think this movie isn't a good movie, but I love the balls that it has, you know? Like, I've never seen a movie before that is like this, right?
It is pretty well. Well, it starts off, they're like, well, Seeley or whatever they're called, they're like, well, we gotta shut down Nerve. Let's take it over. So the government basically goes in, sends in all their soldiers, and just starts killing everybody in Nerve.
Well, okay, so first of all, the guys who came in and started shooting people, I had to think about it. So, who were they? Who was y'all's take on who that was?
It was either the military or the UN. I mean, some government.
Okay, yeah, because it wasn't. Because at first I thought it was Zile, that they were trying to take over control from Gendo in this movie, but they had the same goal. Like Zile and Gendo had the same goal. They wanted to initiate the Third Impact and do the Human Instrumentality Project. So yeah, I guess that the military dudes were the UN, and they were trying to stop the Human Instrumentality Project from happening, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And one thing I didn't understand is because the UN, granted, they had a lot of soldiers and forces, but how was Nerve not prepared for this? Like, they had no self-defense. They had like 5 soldiers in one post and just got completely overrun. I mean, it was a joke. But anyways, basically, it's just this, everybody's attacking everybody.
Everyone's getting shot, and it's like they just getting lit up. There's blood going everywhere.
And Misato's trying to get Shinji to get out in Unit 1.
He's got to get into Ava and go up and fight the military forces coming in, because also they sent the UN sent in these fake Ava units, right? Or was that Zile that sent those in? I don't remember. Yeah, no, it was Zile who sent in those mass-produced Ava units, the weird the weird crocodile mouth things,
right?
And
with the wings.
Yeah. And Asuka was fighting those, and that part is super messed up. Like, that is the grossest thing I've ever seen, is how Asuka dies, right? Like, her Ava's torn apart, and like organs and blood and stuff spurting out.
Well, you gotta give a little backstory too. So Asuka's fighting these things, and then they finally shoot off her Ava unit's plug, so its power's running low, and she basically destroys all the other little Avas, takes them out, and she runs out of power, or she's about to run out of power, and then they respawn, and then they just destroy her while her Ava unit's defenseless, and eat the Ava unit. It was pretty crazy.
But I really actually do like the part whenever she comes up and she's whooping ass again, because she needed, that's one thing that the original ending was missing, was a redemption for her, right?
Oh, like in the beginning?
Yeah. It was for her to get her ego back, right? And become like the Asuka that we're used to seeing. And so that part was cool to see that. But then, it's like a zombie movie. Like, they come back to life and rip her apart. And I mean, she's kind of like all the way to the end. She doesn't give up though. She's muttering, "I'll kill you," and then
and she's putting her hand up. And it's just really sad. It's
Ava unit's eyeballs hanging out and stuff. It's disgusting. So Shinji gets up there, right?
Yeah, because he didn't want to though. Misato's saying you gotta. It's up to you, but you have to get in your Ava unit and get out of here. She's telling him that so he can escape, basically. But also, hey, by the way, if you want to help out Asuka, that'd be great too. And when they're trying to escape, Misato gets shot, and she's helping him. She finds him to an elevator, gets him to an elevator, and then this part I thought was really weird as well. She kisses Shinji
on the mouth,
and like a lover's kiss,
full on kiss. She said that's how adults kiss.
Yeah, she goes, and I wrote this down because I had to get this right. She goes, "That's how grown-ups kiss. We'll do the rest when you get back." And I thought, in my notes, I wrote,
Shinji, I'm gonna bang you.
Well,
in my notes, 14 years old.
Yeah, in my notes I wrote, "What the hell?" I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Anyways, it didn't matter. I think she knew she was gonna die, because after Shinji goes up, she falls down the ground and she's dead.
Yeah, oh yeah, she's dead, and I think that Shinji knows it too because he gets in the elevator and he's still freaking out. He's cracking, but still, I think that this movie doesn't care. This movie literally doesn't care about what you think.
Yeah,
because
it kills everybody.
It kills everyone, and then Misato saying that she's gonna have sex with Shinji when he gets back. I can't believe that this movie exists and is on Netflix and does all this. And because you also get the thing with Rei and Gendo. Rei, who is butt ass naked for the entire movie, and they're doing something. What are they doing? What's the?
It was they said let's start the human whatever project, and she turns into a giant white Rei thing.
Well, doesn't she climb up into Adam?
So Gendo's down there with Rei, and. Rei's arm falls off, which was strange, and because he says that her AT field is deteriorating or something like that, and then he reaches his hand inside of her, he touches her on the chest, and then his hand goes into her body, and I had I don't know what this is, what is going on, and then she climbs into Lilith and is absorbed and becomes Lilith, right? And so then she becomes a giant version of herself.
Yeah, that's right.
And so this is the second impact, right? And so, meanwhile, Shinji is being hoisted up. He's in his Eva, and he's mentally cracked. He's gone insane because he saw Asuka's Eva torn to shreds, and also Risco got shot in the face by Gendo at some point. And then, so Shinji's up in the sky with all the Evas with the wings, the zombie Eva things. And Rei grows to be 1 billion feet tall, like the size of the earth. Mm-hmm.
And then Kamaru shows up out of nowhere too. He and Rei are
yeah,
they share the same torso, and he pops up, and he's like Shinji, and Shinji's like, huh? And he's like, it's okay, you don't have to be alone anymore. And he's like, oh, you're alive. He's like, Shinji, it's the weirdest thing. And then
the angel guy.
Yeah, and then it goes inside Shinji's brain, right?
Yeah.
But also during this part. Is this the part when people start exploding?
Yeah, so this is the beginning. So people start seeing these naked figures of the people that make them the happiest.
Yeah, that's right.
And so they're like, oh yay! It's Gendo. He sees Yui, and then he's like Yui, mm-hmm. and then the Eva appears and chokes Gendo and kills him, and then everybody sees somebody.
Well, does it kill him though? Does it kill him?
I thought it did.
Or does he explode into goo?
I can't. Everybody explodes into goo. Everybody sees
everyone
somebody.
explodes into goo. Yeah.
And
are they really exploding into goo?
So so what's happening right here, right? The science behind it is that their AT fields are breaking down. So this is the thing that happened in episodes 25 and 26, the Human Instrumentality Project, in which everyone becomes one being. This is what it looks like.
Oh, okay.
So it's their atoms are dematerializing basically, and they're just becoming a puddle of whatever.
But their consciousness lives on.
Yes, so they're not dying is the thing. They're not actually dying. They're still, their consciousness are alive, and they're blending together, I guess. And so what we saw in episodes 25 and 26 is is kind of what's happening in their minds at this time. But this is what's happening on the outside, right? Right?
I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's weird, and I just kind of backtrack a little bit. I thought it'd be fun to share my notes from when you see giant white Rei appear larger than life.
Please do.
My notes, and this is what I wrote, and this is my notes. My thoughts as giant white Rei appears, quote, what the F is this, end quote, and then, quote, yo dog, what the F, end quote. I mean, it was just so insane. And then, I put notes here that says, the creepy giant white Rei, she got her head cut off at one point, and then it was just so insane, and it made zero sense. And for me, it just seemed like, well, I'll talk about how I feel about the movie at the end, how it all ends.
Yeah.
But so yeah, everybody like turns into goo, and Shinji kind of wakes up, and Rei's straddling him like he's laying on his back, and Rei's in a sexual position.
That's right.
And
also weird because they're both children, and also Rei's kind of his mom too, so also weird.
Yeah, and they're kind of floating in this space, but it seems like they're not having sex because they're actually combined. Like they're fused
That's
together.
Right. Their lower halves are together.
Yeah, and he goes, what? She goes, this is the humanity, whatever that project is.
Human instrumentality project.
That thing, yeah.
Get it right.
Yeah, sorry, the show is kind of confusing. And anyway, she goes, this is what this is, and everybody's connected. We're all nowhere and everywhere at the same time. It's like a dystopia, basically, because
or utopia.
Is that the?
Utopia is the good one. Dystopia is the bad.
No, I think it's a dystopia because there's no humanity. It's called the Humanity Project.
Human Instrumentality Project.
Exactly. But there's no humanity. Everybody's just there, and yeah, it sounds cool to be connected, but that's not humanity.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say it's a dystopia. And anyway, she goes, Shinji, don't you want this? This way you're never alone. Everybody's happy. And then basically Shinji says, but this isn't, I don't want this. I want to try. I want to experience life. Oh, in the meantime, before this weird thing happened, the whole planet and everybody was turning into goo. Like all these crosses, like light crosses showed up in the sky's a dark color. A big giant orb came out of the earth. I mean...
Well, so I took that to be, that's all the goo. So all of the goo has gathered into this like second planet, basically. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah,
least.
it was weird, and so that happened. The world is basically not as we know it anymore. Is completely changed, and
did we skip the part whenever Shinji chokes?
No, that's coming up.
That's at the very end, right?
Yeah. So
yeah.
Shinji, he's talking to Rei, and he goes, "I don't want this," and apparently Shinji is the one who decides if the project. The
Human Instrumentality Project.
if the project, he's the one that decides whether or not this will proceed or not, and that's what I was getting at. He said, "No, I want to try. I don't want this to be a thing." So next thing you know, he's on the beach, laying next to Asuka.
Well, no, before that, there's the psychedelic vision in which he and Asuka are in the Misato's house, and Asuka's basically talking to him like he's like a piece of shit and all that, and she like pushes him over, and then he makes the decision in that moment to choke her, and this is like within his subconscious, right, or his mind, and then I feel like that's like the height, like right after that is like the height of the psychedelic stuff, because then it flips over and you see real footage of people in like the streets of Tokyo and stuff like that, like people walking around, and then you get to see like there's shots of movie theaters, like just people in movie theaters, and then it says like it flashes on the bottom, it says like, does it feel good?
Yeah, and it's weird.
It's trying to make you basically be like this is what you wanted, motherfuckers. Like this is this the ending that you wanted? And like it shows flashes of it actually shows flashes of the death threats that the creator was sent. So like it shows like little screens with like Japanese text on them. Those are the death threats that he got.
Is that when it's going like really fast?
Yeah. And it also has a flash of like the graffiti that was left at his office and all that stuff, and so yeah, that's like a direct message to the audience.
It's a big middle finger.
Yeah. Well, and it talks about like how people are miserable, so they escape into reality. So he's basically saying, y'all totally missed the point of my show. You're so concerned with like the plot and stuff, and none of that matters because it's all fiction anyways, and you're just a bunch of nerdy losers who care too much about a dumb TV show. And so that was my takeaway from it, at least. Like it's pretty wild.
and then so yeah, after that real footage, that's when Shinji says, no, I don't want that. And so basically, the Rei, she goes, okay. And then so Shinji wakes up on the beach next to Asuka. The world still looks like a mess. And you see
there's like a giant Ray head like floating.
Yeah, it's so weird. And then he kind of touches Asuka's hand, and then he gets on top of her and starts choking her. And he realizes that he's trying to kill Asuka, and he starts crying, and he's just weeping. And Asuka kind of wakes up and looks at him, and she goes, "Disgusting." And then it ends.
Boom, credits. Ending.
But didn't he stop choking her?
Yeah.
He let up once she touched, like, because she opened her eyes and she kind of like touched his cheek or something like that, and and so he kind of lets up. I don't think that it ends with him actually killing her.
No, he did, because he started crying and she goes, "Disgusting." And
disgusting.
So why was he choking her again?
Well, that's what we can discuss. It's like the message of this movie, right? What is it? Right? What is this movie trying to say? It's because it's like a totally different tone from the last 2 episodes of the show. So Shinji decided that he wants to live in the real world. He doesn't want to live in a human soup, right? That's the third impact, and so he decides to reconstruct himself in Asuka, but then tries to choke her. So to me, it shows like a vicious cycle, like he's trying to heal, but he's still broken at the end, right? Does that make sense? Like he decided that he wants to live in the real world, but then he's so mad that he immediately tries to change his mind and kill her again, right? Is that what y'all got?
Not really, but I'm curious to what JP has to say after watching all this anime stuff, and like we said before, he dealt a lot of psychology classes, and so I want to hear his take on it.
Yeah, what's your take, JP?
My take? I mean, I don't know, like, golly.
Did you give up on this one as
No,
you were watching it?
I watched everything.
But were you like, man, I don't know about this?
No, I mean, there's just so much emotional baggage, especially Shinji is experiencing. Like, okay, in the episodes 25 and 26, at the end, it's just like, he's like in a therapy session, and all the voices he's hearing, it's like the therapist, giving him a better.
It's like an intervention almost, right?
Yeah. Better view of life.
Mm-hmm.
And then this in the movie, it's kind of, I guess, in a way saying that. I mean, isn't it better to live and maybe life is going to be full of bad emotions and difficult times, but isn't it better to do that rather than to like be alive and have a body than to be in a human soup like that?
Well, and so Nick, you said that you think that the Human Instrumentality Project is a terrible idea, right?
I do, because, and we've talked about this too, and I'm gonna bring it up. Kind of going back to Soma, like for me, Soma.
Oh yeah, so JP, Soma is a video game that we're gonna have you play at some point. It's a really interesting, like, it's got some interesting science fiction ideas.
Yeah, it's really immersive, and it's really cool. It's a horror survival game, but the main gist is you're trying.
Spoilers for Soma, though.
Well, there's this project in Soma, and it's the end of the world, and you're trying to save humanity by uploading like a digital form of yourself into a supercomputer and launching it into space. And you think about it. To me, that's not humanity. While you have this digital self living somewhere, that's not real.
A better example for JP to relate to is Black Mirror, the San Junipero episode, where they upload their minds to a computer instead of dying, right? And so you're living in a paradise, but is it real? I don't know, right?
And so they sell it.
Or like the. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say they sell it as, you live forever, and you're like part of your your mind continues on like a copy of you. But like everybody thinks that's a good idea, but to me that's not real. It's completely fake. While it sounds kind of nice and it sounds interesting, it's a really cool concept, but it's fake. And that's what the Human Instrumentality Project, is that what it's called?
Yeah, you finally got it.
Yeah. An hour in this episode, I finally got it. That's what that project is. It's not real. It's a drug that they give people that makes them feel good, and you feel all connected, and you think, in theory, you think it should work. In theory, you think communism should work. It doesn't. And I don't think this works either because it's not real. And that's why I think it's a dystopia, because it's not. You're trying to preserve humanity, but by those actions, you're actually destroying it. What makes us human? Because
that's a good point. Because part of being human is struggling and making mistakes.
And
right?
while you don't want to feel it, pain, sadness, those are real human emotions. Everybody goes through them, and if you're not feeling those emotions, then you're not experiencing life. And life isn't all candy, roses, and butterflies and rabbits. There's some dark stuff, and I feel like that's what the show's trying to say, is that this is real, and you're not alone. People go through these things, and it's okay, because there's people that you can relate to and that can help you out. But then and kind of going back to the writer giving the middle finger to the people that didn't like that ending, he said, all right, well, we'll make everybody dead, make everybody sad.
Okay, the first time I watched this, which was several years ago. I remember I didn't really like the original ending of the show that much. I didn't think it was very satisfying and all that. I remember that the ending was, with the congratulations scene is emotionally powerful, but I felt like it wasn't complete, which obviously it wasn't. And so I tried to look at this as the true ending, but honestly, I think that the movie, The End of Evangelion, is actually like an abomination that should never have existed. like this, they should have never made this movie.
Yeah, well, maybe the director kind of made it that way.
That's the point.
On purpose.
Yeah.
In his mind, it really wasn't.
Yeah,
it was just
I think so.
Ruining the whole show for people who complained to him about it.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think that is 100% the case. And that is still interesting. This movie is fascinating, I think, because of that. But I think that this is it's the product of an angry, of a filmmaker who's angry at his audience, and he wants to punish them. Even though, we didn't even mention the craziest thing that happens in this is the first scene of the movie in which Shinji comes into Asuka, who is
in a coma,
who's comatose, and he masturbates to her. Like, that's how you start this movie. That is crazy. This movie is insane, y'all. This movie is unbelievable. I cannot believe it exists. Also, did y'all see the rating on this? This is rated TV-14 on Netflix. Somebody messed up there, because some 9-year-old kid's going to be like, hey, look, a cartoon. And, and the parents, but...
It's pretty serious stuff. It's pretty graphic, and it's pretty mature, so it's not... I would not say it's TV-14.
I cannot believe this. I can't believe it. Well, and also that because this is a very popular anime show, and trust me, JP, this is your first anime watching. This is really unusual for, like, there aren't any. There's probably a few animes that are similar to this, but this is very much out of the box as far as what other animes like, and. So it's wild to me that this show is as popular as it is, especially with this ending right here. But very interesting.
Yeah, but I think the show just makes you really happy, because I don't know, with me, when I was watching all this crazy stuff happening and everybody's dying, and then you're like, everybody's consciousness was being melded together. Like, all I really wanted was, like, in the episode 26, when they go back to kind of the reality phase. And,
that's it.
Like, you want normalcy, you want order, you just want everything to be like it once was, and regardless of if you're having a good day or a bad day, I mean, it's still not as bad as this crap that happens in the movie.
It's almost like it's like a nightmare because you ever have like a really bad dream and you wake up from the bad dream and you're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, thank God everything's okay.
Well, and actually the Flash in episodes 25 and 26 when they're just in school and there's no giant robots, there's no angels and stuff, they actually did a manga series. Manga is Japanese comic books. They have a series of that, and it's just that. It's just these characters in like a regular high school setting.
Oh, like of the same characters, like Shinji.
Like exactly what that was. That's like, and like Misato's their teacher, and Rei is the new girl at school. It's like. It's that, just these characters are regular kids in regular school dealing with regular kids' problems, which is really interesting because, again, I feel like that's completely missing the point of the show again.
Maybe it's someone who just wanted that so badly.
Exactly, and that's how you do it. You don't send death threats to the to the creator of the show.
Right, you make fan fiction. Make your owning. That's what I was kind of getting at. But what were you guys' overall thoughts on the show? I know we've kind of hinted at them before, but
JP, you go first. Overall thoughts on the experience as a whole.
It was a unique experience, obviously, because I'd never seen an anime movie before. It was very eye-opening, being exposed to anime for the first time, just what it's like. But yeah, like I understand this is not a normal anime movie. I think it was incredibly deep. Like I hope no kid just tries to watch this because they will have no idea what's going on. So it's like in a way, like I feel like it's just I don't know, it's like so philosophical.
Yeah. What do you think is the ideal age for someone to watch this show?
Probably in your 20s, I imagine. Like maybe in like that. In a transition age, I think it's mainly for younger people, maybe who are going off to college or like they're about to leave college and start their career, or I mean I don't know if it'd be a show for someone who's has mental illness like depression or anxiety.
You think so?
I think it might. I mean, it's definitely. I think it's good for someone who's gotten over that.
Yeah.
But it also like
you can see how it could mess somebody up, I guess.
Well, because the characters, they're experiencing that, and it might, if someone who is like deep depression or something like that is watching it, it may make them feel even worse. Yeah. I mean, maybe watching the ending would help.
Yeah.
But they would have to suffer through all the other episodes before they
get there.
Yeah.
The light at the end of the tunnel.
Basically.
Okay. So, Nick, what about you? What are your overall thoughts?
Overall, I mean, I enjoyed it, and like I said earlier, I thought that the episode 26 ending was very profound, and I thought that it was I liked the message, and seeing the struggle for Shinji through the entire show it was great, and really all the characters. It was heartbreaking at times. But you saw them battle through that and overcome it for the most part. And really, I just really like the overall message of the original ending. The movie was just crazy. It was entertaining, but it was. I mean, you take it for what it is. It's entertainment, and it's just crazy. The message was a little more depressing in that one, but overall, I thought it was really good. It's had some pretty awkward moments that you don't want somebody to walk in and you're like what are you watching? But it was good, and again, good positive message. I think I don't think it's aimed towards, like I said, kids. I really don't think the TV 14 rating is too far off. I would obviously I think late high school age, which 14 you're still a sophomore or freshman. So I think
you'd be a freshman.
Yeah, so I think 16 and up, maybe a little bit, maybe 17, in that range, because you're still struggling to find yourself, and you're still learning yourself, who you are. Yeah. And I think a lot of characters were doing that in the show, and so it's very relatable. I just don't see it as it's not a kid show. And like JP was saying, I think to really appreciate it, you have to be a little older, or at least a little more mature.
Yeah, you've had to have gone through some.
Yeah,
some
and
things.
to kind of see what's happening and to understand more with the characters, what they're thinking, and but I thought it was really good. I liked it. Good summarize it. Good show. Awkward moments, and had a good positive message originally, and it was fun.
I think that the series episodes 1 through 26 is incredible. Like I think that the show, especially the message that it has, is I honestly think it's one of the best television shows of all time. And I don't think I felt that way the first time I saw it, but I think that seeing it this time, I feel that way. I think it's better than Lost, not as good as Breaking Bad, better than Game of Thrones. I think that this is a fantastic show, and I think that anyone who is interested in seeing like smart, deep, like storytelling, regardless of whether or not you're into anime, needs to see this. And so I'm glad that I had you guys watch this for the show. I'm glad that you guys appreciated the things that were good about it. I think that the movie is fascinating, to say the least. Again, I think that it's. I don't think that's the true ending of the series. I think that it's disgusting. It's shocking, but I love that it exists, and I love that the creator of the show had the chutzpah to create something like this and release it in theaters. And I'm surprised that he wasn't murdered after making that. I will say though that it does, the original ending, episode 26, does make me sad. In addition to being a optimistic ending, it makes me sad to know that ending is not the end of the creator's mental health struggles, right? Because it's a resolution of a show, but mental health is something that people struggle with for their entire lives, right? Especially someone with like chronic depression and stuff. And so it's sort of tragic in that way. And I think that the movie End of Evangelion is a reminder of that, right? That even if you reach the light at the end of the tunnel, that's not the end, right? You're still going to have moments of darkness. And actually, this guy, so they're currently creating movie remakes of Neon Genesis Evangelion. They're called the Rebuild of Evangelion. Have y'all heard about these?
Mm-mm. Yes, I saw a little bit about it.
So I haven't seen any of them, but they started back in like 2007, I think. And I've seen some of the first one, which is pretty much exactly like the first few episodes of the show. It's just the animation's way better. But apparently the story changes a lot the deeper into those you go. So far they've released 3. They're supposed to release 1 more. However, I think they've spent like almost like 8 years making this 4th one because, again, the Hideaki Anno, the creator of the series, he had to stop making it, the show, because of depression. So like he had to like stop in the middle of making the movie because of his personal struggles. But they're fixing to finish it finally, and they're going to be releasing it in 2020, next year, at least, unless it gets postponed again. So that's another interesting thing that I think that I'm going to wait till the 4th one comes out, then I'm going to catch up on all of them. Hey, maybe we can even cover it on the show next year. Would y'all be down for that?
Yeah.
Watching those movies?
It'd be fun to compare it to the original.
Yeah, and so that's kind of, that's Neon Genesis Evangelion. It was a pleasure going through it with you gentlemen, but I'm sad that this hour-and-a-half episode has got to come to an end. Now, next episode, we are going to be discussing 2 Jim Henson movies. The creator of the Muppets, Jim Henson, he made these 2 fantasy movies back in the 80s. Maybe you've heard of them. The first one's called The Dark Crystal, and the second one's called Labyrinth. We're going to be watching both of these. and talking about them. These two guys have never seen those before. So, yeah, I'm excited for you guys to experience the glory that is David Bowie in Labyrinth. And we're also doing this in preparation for the new Netflix TV series, which is a prequel to the Dark Crystal, which is coming out at the end of August. So, if you haven't seen these movies, check them out or catch up on them if it's been a while since that show will be dropping on Netflix pretty soon. Anyways, that does it for this week's episode. Check in on Sunday for our third discussion of Watchmen. JP missed that one, but me and Nick get into the ending of that, and it's a good discussion. So thanks again for listening. Subscribe to our show, rate and review on iTunes. We will see you guys this coming Sunday for Book Talk.